All right. Well, welcome everyone. 12:02 always comes faster than I expect because I'm jamming out to my EDM music, which I'm so grateful that you all allow for me to play during the start of the meeting. And then I get this really fun period for about 2 to 3 minutes where, because, with Zoom, you have to admit people these days. That's how it's done. Can't just let anyone in all willy-nilly. But then it causes me to have to sit and push approve about 10,000 times while we start the meeting. So I appreciate your grace as we're going through that. Welcome to the Q1 2023 community Zoom. Super stoked to have everybody here. We're already at a banner participation rate, which is super exciting. We got a lot of fun stuff and a lot of fun people. I think I mentioned over the last meeting, this is becoming one of my most favorite parts of this community. Is just the speakers we get have always been so incredible. Will be the case today. There's always a lot of questions and collaboration. And so just excited to work through that all with you. Just as a reminder, a couple things for folks that aren't familiar with the format of our Zoom today. We usually do a quick introduction like now. We're going to talk about some community successes, so people doing really cool things in our esports community in Wisconsin. We always love to bring someone on who has reached out over the past few months and said, hey, our organization may not be as familiar with this as others, but we've seen it in different places. We've got a vision for potentially how this might work for us, but we would love help. And I think there's nothing better than when people who have expertise and people who have passion can come together around a person or an organization who is asking or raising their hands for help. So we've got a great one today for that. And then, of course, story time, just the chance to meet somebody, hear about what they're doing in the esports community and kind of how they got into it. There's so many things going on around Wisconsin, around the community, that it's always really fun to highlight people. But I can't go any further without a huge shout out to an organization that has come on as the presenting sponsor of this community Zoom, so making it possible for us to do so, and that is Software One. I'm going to go out on a limb and hope that many of you are familiar with that organization, as they have a pretty huge presence, not only nationally, but internationally. They just recently moved a headquarters to downtown Milwaukee in the 3rd Ward and have started to move folks to that and have some exciting plans here for the future. They've been a really amazing partner very quickly to the esports community, and are excited about what it means for us and for us as a region to go forward and to use gaming. And I think you hear a lot going on in the world today about esports, some of which we'll talk about. But I really love the local community buy-in from an org like this, and we've got several doing the exact same thing that I think bode really well for our future here in Wisconsin and southern Wisconsin. So just a massive shout out to Software One. You will hear more about them and see more of them, not today per se, but at the summit and some upcoming things. So shout out SWO. If this is your first Zoom that you've never been on before and you're curious just a little bit about our organization, I always like to just mention sort of what we are here for. What is the Milwaukee Esports Alliance shooting to achieve? And you see them up on the screen. So we're here to try to drive regional collaboration. That's what we're doing here today. Create as many intersection points as possible for people to network, to connect, to work together, to keep growing this effort. We want to increase equity and access. So we want to make sure that it is not just held in a tightly wound group who is able to thrive and be entrepreneurial and work together. We want everyone to have access to it. And gaming is one of the few things, in my opinion, in the world that allows for that as easily as it does. So we want to make sure we do that. And then we're just trying to be, for the state of Wisconsin, just a bellwether to try to share with others around the country, around the world. Hey, this is why you should think about us. This is why you should think about our region. We won't go out on a limb and say that we're the new premier destination for esports, but we're working really hard. And there's a lot of people whose faces are on this call and who are you going to hear from today that are really working diligently to put us on the map for that. So just want to share that that's a big vision for us as well. So a little bit of an update on us. It's going to be short today because I'll be honest, we've been pretty focused. We got kind of a big thing coming up a week from now. Again, many of you I see on the screen, I know are registered, presenting, supporting. Can't thank you all enough. It's been a really exciting journey. And I'm really thrilled. We're getting some images in today from things getting set up on site. It's going to be a really cool event. And so tons of registrations, which has been awesome. We will cap it. So if you are thinking about attending and you haven't, maybe consider registering sooner than later. But that's a really exciting project and we're super stoked for the upcoming event. So thank you to everyone for being a part of that. And that's been a big thing. We also did just do a quick website refresh. Our partner, Brandelier Creative, who does all of our web hosting and design, refresh the site for us to kind of emphasize the summit and some of the other things going on in the region. So if you'd like to go and check it out and see some of it, provide opinions, always appreciated. But that's what we've been doing over the past 2-3 months. That's been enough. So my favorite part, community success stories. Let's jump right into it. And I saw Jackson. So thank you, sir. I see you're on. You can unmute yourself when you're ready. But we have Jackson Haffenbrettel, who is just a stand-up guy, A, but B, is a perfect example to me of when people take on an entrepreneurial endeavor, when they take on something they feel is missing and they start to grow it, which we just appreciate so much. So Jackson, talk a little bit about, welcome, by the way, maybe a little Midwest R6 update for people who may not know, and just kind of share what's been the journey over the past couple of years, because you've been really working at this. Welcome.
Thank you for the introduction first. So Midwest R6, it's a collegiate league for Rainbow Six Siege, title that's been out for about 8 years, still growing. It originally started out as just a little Wisconsin league. About 8 universities from Wisconsin competed in it, and they were just like, let's do more, right? Everyone wants to get together. The community has grown in esports, so we took the opportunity to make a difference. We wanted to offer a lot of more universities a chance to work together, play against other schools that they know, and have a fun time doing it. So we branded out from Wisconsin to the Midwest. We have 8 states, and we're killing it every day. We have new teams joining every day who want to join the list, and we're just having a blast. We're getting ready to host our playoffs, have a lot of great opportunities here that we're planning to give back to our communities. And it's going to be a great semester, and we're really looking forward to it. And I just can't wait to see what happens next.
I love it. For those that may not know, kind of collegiately in particular, what the space looks like for leagues, why is a locally based or somewhat regionally based league, would you say, is attractive? Like, what gives it sort of a differentiator versus maybe some that are a little bit bigger?
Yeah, so I think with the local leagues, it's everybody, right? For when we started off with Wisconsin, all the teams knew each other. They probably scrimmed each other at least once. They knew the university, at least that they were playing against, or that was in the league. So it's a lot more based on your state, which is something we really wanted to strive with when we started. And I think it just starts to grow from there. But compared to like the big leagues where it's multi-states, really the local league is where you want to be when you start something like this, because connections, schools, the players, and it just starts growing there from different colleges.
That's awesome. So you mentioned, so when did this start? Remind me what year you took this on?
Just started last year.
Wow, last year. Okay. And so you said you moved to 8 states. What's kind of the vision, or kind of what are you thinking as an org for the future? One of the things that I wanted to make you as the success story of is you've already grown, and growth is really cool. But obviously there's a lot of things kind of in the intricacies that can sort of elevate a league or make the experience even better. What are you kind of thinking to, like, here's where we are today, and here's what we're thinking we'd like to improve or sort of add to our offering over the next little bit of time? And feel free, again, most people may not have a great understanding of what is this collegiate league? What are they doing on a day-to-day basis? How do they play with people? So any details there, I'm sure would be well received.
Yeah, so one of our big things for trying to expand was last semester we started with 5 states. And I know a lot of people are like, let's jump right into this. Let's get all the Midwest in there, because that's our end goal, right? We want the entire Midwest. We want to have this opportunity for schools to compete. But we said we have to take a different approach. We knew based on our first season last fall that there was some issues. That we spent 2 months pretty much posting as much as we can about updates, but we really focused on the player experience rather than anything else, the fundamentals of the league. And since then, it's been working. Players are a lot happier with the league, how it's going, and we're growing day by day. And next fall, we plan on adding the last 4 states in the Midwest, and we're excited for it. We're ready for it. We know that there's a lot of anticipation over there, and they're excited to join. We can just keep working our best this spring to prove that we deserve to have a shot, that the universities should at least invest some time into the league, and we're just going to make it worthwhile for them. That's really what we want to do.
I love it. So walk us through, it's a Tuesday night, you've got a match. Like what is the start of the experience, maybe till the end? Like what would someone see? Where should they go? Like what would that look like in a Midwest R6, evening?
Yeah, so every team gets the experience of communicating with a different university. They will hop on a call. They will talk over like picking some maps that they're going to play so they know who the other team is. They've talked to them, they have a connections. Boom, right there. They now know someone from a different university that they can do and collaborate with. So that you'll experience that, and a couple hours later, you'll have your match. But then after, you get to do stuff like filling out a match report, which is, I don't know if people enjoy it, but it's kind of like paperwork after the match, but it's something that they get experience in, just filling out forms, getting that kind of momentum that, hey, this is what's going to happen. You played a match. Can you recap it in a way on a document so that we can keep track of it? And it's just, that's kind of how our typical game days go. You get started, you play the match, you end it, and hopefully at the end of the day, you feel good about your game, and that hopefully can carry on to the next one.
Love it. No, that's super helpful. And I think anecdotally, something I came across information wise the other day when we were having our monthly collegiate esports connect was someone had mentioned, in the collegiate space, there's really, for better or for worse, two major conferences as a layman would describe it. And so in that reality comes the placement of matches where it might be a Wisconsin university, let's say, placed against someone in Alaska. And as you all may be aware, of course, internet speed and ping and different things that affect gameplay are pretty difficult between Alaska and Wisconsin. And so I think, one of the things that's super exciting, in addition to just entrepreneurialism and the amazing work that Jackson and his team have done, is that we're giving people that opportunity to find locality. We're giving them that chance to sort of, be amongst each other and hopefully have better gameplay. Have you seen that as a part of your experience, Dylan, or Jackson, just with kind of how things have evolved?
Absolutely. One of our requirements for the league is that you have to play on the central server. So everyone's within the same region, especially being in the Midwest. So that it's all fair game server wise. We hope that people are on their college internet, but if not, they should definitely make us aware so we can make sure that these games are a lot more balanced.
Cool. Love it. Well, thank you just for sharing awesome work on what you and the team have done. I'd say if you want to either email or drop them a Twitter link, just throw something in the chat. Or if people want to learn more about Midwest R6 or follow the progress, I always appreciate that chance to just kind of keep people in the loop on the cool things that are going on. But we're really grateful, between you, Wisconsin Collegiate Rocket League. We're going to hear from one of our, primary sources here in a minute of, leagues in the state. But we're just grateful and thank you for doing that and bringing people together. It's been really cool to see.
I appreciate being here. Thank you.
And thanks for making time because you're like in class, you're doing things.
Yeah,
So appreciate you coming in over lunch and being able to chat with us, man. It's good to see you.
of course. Thank you.
All right. So Jackson, great guy, doing amazing work, grassroots in it, working on, you mentioned paperwork, which I saw a few people cringe at. I would too, esports, paperwork, they don't seem to go together, but I'm sure they do. We're going to hear from someone now who is no, let's say, stranger to paperwork as an educator in our Wisconsin system, but he also happens to be the president of our Wisconsin High School Esports Association, Mike Dahl, who, if you haven't heard, met, or been aware of, is by far one of the leaders of esports in the state of Wisconsin. Mike, I probably welcome, by the way. Good to see you as always. I might even have you, just for those who may not know, give us a quick synopsis of the high school association in general, because it's profound. And then really just wanted to highlight, you've had some incredible growth in this season with registrations and opening up of titles. And I think people can really benefit from hearing all the incredible work you're doing. So regale us, my friend. Great to see you.
Thanks for that nice introduction. So this is officially our 7th year that we're entering into as far as this competition goes. We started way back when, just doing League of Legends. We started with 7 schools. I spent the summer emailing dozens of schools around the state to say, like, hey, does anybody have a league team that want to form a league? And since then, we've grown to about 150, 160 schools, high school, middle school, online school, charter schools, academies, you name it. We're all inclusive all around the state. We got schools all the way up in Superior, Wisconsin to like Shullsburg down in the southwest corner to then most of the Racine school districts. We've expanded to 6 different titles. So we do Smash Brothers, Smite, League of Legends, Valorant, Rocket League, and Fortnite this year. We're entering into our last week of the regular season for the winter season for Rocket League and Fortnite, where we had 160 different teams competing. I had almost 160 Fortnite trios to start the season off with. Learned a lot of bumps and bruises along the way with Fortnite. Definitely got some more gray hairs because of it. But we are 3 weeks away from our Winter State Championship, which Dylan is hosting up at UW River Falls. So we'll have the best Rocket League teams in the state going up there to play in a tournament in order to crown 5 division champions. And then on Wednesday, March 15th, we'll actually crown the top 3 Fortnite trios in the state as well. So a lot of things happening. It's a lot. Yeah, you want to talk paperwork. There's a lot of stuff that goes on the backside. I think one of the biggest misconceptions within all of this is that all you have to do is just start something. And it's no longer at that point. Now you're having to make sure that you're reading and following community guidelines. You're applying for tournament licenses. You're using the correct nomenclature as far as what the developers allow you to use. Some of them you have to actually schedule meetings with the developers in order to even get approved in order to operate some of these titles. So there's a lot of hoops to jump through. I'm very lucky that there are some companies that are willing to meet outside of traditional business hours, because I'm at school. Like, I'm a full-time teacher, so I'm here at 6:30 in the morning until about 4:30, 5 o'clock most days of the week. So most of this gets handled between 5:30 and 8 o'clock while I sit at my computer at home eating dinner at my own computer. So I think that's like a 500-foot view there. So
No, that's really good. Well, and something I'd love for maybe you to touch on a little bit more, because I mean, again, you're at the heart of what oftentimes is described as the engine of esports, right? It's under 18. It's the growth within Scholastic. It's kind of a lot of times at VC funded conversations or otherwise, when people are citing statistics around saying this rocket fuel growth is occurring. You mentioned some of the complexities that are evolving in that, but maybe just as your process has evolved, maybe a chance to give yourself some credit. Why do you think that the enrollment, has continued to go up? Why do you think that the Wisconsin High School Association is viewed so favorably? I mean, what I could name some reasons I personally believe, but what have you really at the core of it felt like has been driving this? Because it's sustained success and it's very highly regarded. What would you say is behind some of that?
There's a handful that's there. I think Jake Utides from Minnesota, who will be coming down next week for the summit. He posted a tweet the other day and he said, all schools have an esports team. They just don't know it. And I think that really encapsulates this whole thing, is that it's going to continue to keep growing because students are now noticing that other schools are doing this. My school has had 2 students open enroll from neighboring districts to come and to be on our team, to participate in our program. And I think it's a misrepresented or an underrepresented group of students that we have in our schools. And it's just now for the adults to take notice and figure out how to harbor that and turn it into something positive. I have my students are doing graphic design work for stream overlays. My students are doing the broadcasting for the most part. I have 5 or 6 paid broadcasters and graphic designers that work for me across the state. Our main caster lives in Racine and our secondary caster lives in Green Bay. They work together on Tuesdays and Thursdays to cast games together, and it's those real world skills that they're getting. Andrew is also exploring journalism as well, which is another thing that I want to get into schools. We talk about getting students to write and to create content and create stories. And this is just a means. These students that I have in my game design and development class are very creative. They just need an outlet that allows them to showcase their creativity and their uniqueness. And I think, to me, that's been the biggest leverage as to why I advocate so much on this behalf.
Yeah, no, that's really good. Well, and I think, for most of, let's assume that the high school esports scene is one that they're newly coming into. They've just heard, some of the successes. They're seeing a great example, locally of what, positive progress can look like. it's a complex ecosystem. And I know we won't have enough time to go into all of the specificities, but maybe just help even describe, because we've got you. And Mike is also going to be at the summit next week. He's going to be leading one of our breakout sessions on creating and sustaining a thriving high school esports program. So you'll be able to get more of this. But just for the shorter bridge version today, there's a lot of complexity in the scholastic esports space nationally, and there's a lot of things evolving. Anything you to just call out maybe is, hey, if it's someone's first exposure to this, something to be aware of, something to keep, a bug in their ear about, or just if they hear more about it to consider, because I know you're involved in a lot, but I'd love to get your perspective on that.
So I think the biggest barrier in place, because most people see scholastic esports, they're like, look at the numbers, look at how many kids there are. Like, we got to be able to get a sliver of that pie. We run on volunteers. This is my 7th year as in this. It's the 6th year for the program here at our school. We don't have a budget. We have to fundraise for everything. There's a misconception that just because the schools have some PCs means that they have funding in order to pay for all these services. And that's just simply not true. I think if we look across the state, only like 30 to 40% of advisors or coaches, whatever you want to call that position, are actually receiving some sort of stipend or additional salary as part of that duty. And then the other big one that too is student data privacy. What data are you collecting off of students working with minors? And that's a huge one. I mean, you can't just come and start working with teenagers and say, yeah, no, this is great. This is really easy. Like, there are boxes that you must check. There are terms of service agreements that you must read through in order to, I guess, open the gate to yourself to get to your target customers.
Yeah. Well, those are, I think I appreciate, we just got kind of a masterclass example, but I'm grateful for your willingness, not only to share the community success because it's important, but I think, for all those involved, when we think about our sustained regional growth as an esports ecosystem in general, it's realistic to say Mike's efforts create and cultivate interest and professionalism and passion. They're then handed off to our 26 universities that now offer a program. And then we hope that they then evolve into places like Terra Localizations and other businesses that are on the call who need to hire people with gaming expertise and background. And so I think you can see that it starts there, but to his point, it's maybe different, at least in my layman's again term, than a basketball, than a football, than a soccer, where sometimes people are just willing, or parents are willing, to shed out hundreds, thousands, multiple thousands of dollars for their activity, and it then provides an economic baseline to increase activity. At this point, it's passion, it's some stipending, but it's not with that base. And so I think I just appreciate, Mike, you calling that out, because it's important and we have to have it. If it decreases, then the rest of the vine decreases as well. So anything else you'd share just on that, or that kind of sum it up okay? Okay. Well, groovy. I think we probably covered it, my friend. Thank you. I appreciate you you jumping on again, taking time. Thank you for your role in education. Whenever I see someone in K through 12 who's an educator with a 3-year-old son, I say, please and thank you. Please stay. Please continue doing the amazing work you're doing, because we need you, my friend. So appreciate you on all fronts.
My pleasure to be here.
All right. So next, we're going to jump into our question for the community. And I'm really excited today to have Robin Luther with us from Susan G. Komen of Wisconsin. I'm remembering I have to hit stop share so we can see everyone's face. I'm hopeful that you all have possibly heard about Susan G. Komen. I know it's a cause that I'm personally have a passion for and have worked with. But I was really stoked when Robin and I recently met, because she reached out and said, hey, I've seen some things going on with colleagues abroad where they're using gaming to help make an impact on fundraising for the cause. And I'd like to learn more. And we had a very cursory, high-level conversation. And I said, you know what? Your question, I think, is one that would be really well served to bring out to the community, to just kind of hear about what's going on, what she's seen, what their intentions might be. And so, Robin, thank you for being willing to come on and kind of share that a little bit. I'd love if you wouldn't mind starting, maybe give the high level on Susan G, and then just kind of what the genesis of, your reaching out was, because I thought that was really neat.
Sure. As many of you probably have heard of Susan G. Komen, it's a pretty well-known organization in the fighting breast cancer space. We are a big organization with very grassroots structure. So I work in Wisconsin. I raise awareness and funds to help people get access. I was interested in seeing your mission and your vision is very similar to ours, where we form partnerships, collaborations, and our main priorities are equity and access. So in Wisconsin, about 1,500 new cases of breast cancer are diagnosed every year. About 700 people will die from breast cancer every year. There's very few people who've not had some connection to breast cancer in their lives, whether it's a family member or a neighbor or a friend. It's a very prevalent disease. 1 in 8 women will be affected by breast cancer in her lifetime, and 1 in 1,000 men are also diagnosed with breast cancer too. So it's not a female-only disease. There's a lot of awareness that goes around being proactive for it. So that's what we're here for, and also to raise money to support programs that we do locally, which include our helpline, which is really accessible to people in Wisconsin. They can call in and get navigated to support services, and I'm gonna move my coworker off the table here. Support services, and more specifically, we really want to help people who are the most critical needs. So people who cannot afford a mammogram, we get them mammograms. People who maybe have insurance for a mammogram, but then they have to have a diagnostic test or a biopsy, something like that. We have a program called the Wisconsin Screening and Diagnostic Program that gives people free tests and screenings that can't afford them otherwise. And what that does is it helps people identify breast cancers more quickly, and it avoids late stage breast cancers and higher mortality rates. There's another program that helps breast cancer patients access just resources that they need so that they can get the treatment they need. They can get to the therapies that they are supposed to be having. So many people delay treatments, mostly based on financial barriers. One interesting fact, about 10% of people that go through a breast cancer diagnosis, it bankrupts them. So it's a real critical need for the people in Wisconsin who do not have the resources to weather that kind of emergency. So that's what we're here for. My initial reach out to Brandon was because I'd been talking to people, one specific colleague of mine who works in Michigan, and she has a young man named, I think his name is Max Stanecki. He's a college student, he's a gamer, he has a big fan base, and every year for the last 3 years, he's run a tournament or a gaming day that's just him playing online with his fans watching. And the first time he tried it in 2020, his mom is a breast cancer survivor, which made him do this. He raised $15,000 with just people watching him. He would put out, can you help me? I'm supporting this cause. Anyone who donates this, you can suggest my next play. You can come in and join me for a second. He had all these different dares, I'll get a tattoo if we raise this much money. I'll do this if we raise that much money, and had a ton of fun with it. Repeated it again in 2022 and raised $20,000, and is doing it again this year, and his goal is $25,000. And it just blew me away that one person doing one activity like that had that kind of fundraising scope. And we work with a lot of high school and university groups doing like basketball fundraisers and volleyball fundraisers, but breaking into an esports space is really unique. And I think breast cancer is so across the board for everyone. I think there's room for some partnerships. And I just wanted to bring that idea to this group and see if you saw any partnerships possible in the space that you occupy in this field.
Love it. Well, first off, again, thank you for being here, and thank you for sharing the mission of Susan G. Komen. You guys do incredible work, and it is for an incredibly worthy, cause, and the people you help are so blessed to be able to receive the stuff that you guys do. So thank you for that.
You're welcome. And our capacity is nowhere near the need. So
yes.
It's like we're always fighting uphill to make sure that we can really cover people.
Yeah, no, it's a good call out. And then I think, so for those, and I appreciate, Mike dropping in some examples. So I think if you're familiar with the space, which many of you, of course, are experts, you're familiar with what Robin is describing. right? You do kind of the charity stream. They get the opportunity to raise money based on either contributors or over a period of time. And so I think that that was a really interesting example, one of which maybe if you heard her and heard someone, or you know someone in Wisconsin who has been looking for that passion point, that it might be an option for them. I think the broader implication to me was, hey, we've got a substantial organization, Susan G. Komen, who's saying, and led by Robin, that gaming, that esports is something that they'd be open to, that they'd be open to learning how might we come alongside it as we go forward to hopefully, receive funds for the care and the services we provide. And so I think that at a minimum, to me, it felt pertinent to bring up the idea for the purposes of, yes, if you know a streamer that can go raise 25,000, hooray. That would be just what a great gift. But more so if you say, hey, here's a thought, here's maybe something like that, or here's maybe an additional way to think about how a not-for-profit, one of Susan G. Komen's status, could get involved in our gaming ecosystem. That I think was the takeaway or the pin I wanted to make sure that this group heard, because obviously you guys are full of brilliant ideas and full of knowledge on how people are doing this. And it's always been my opinion, if we can work with some of our best, and Susan G. Komen is that, and we can show them authentic, real ways to get involved and create impact, then I think we can have long sustained partnerships and, affect people in positive ways. So just wanted to throw that in there. And I don't know that we had a ton more, Robin, between you and I that was like, hey, we just want to get the story out there and be able to make sure people were aware. But I see some folks are throwing things in the chat. So thank you for that. Just as kind of a takeaway for everyone, that we've got an incredible mission. And Robin, if you'd be willing, maybe drop your email in the chat line, just so that people can reach out if they've got questions. You guys have been amazing. Everyone who has done story time has afterwards said they've had a minimum of 3 or 4 people reaching out and engaging them and asking for more. So, at your time and discretion, please keep Robin and this cause kind of at the top of your radar as a possibility to help and see how can we do something like this. Anything else you'd want to share, Robin? I talked a little bit more than I like to there, but anything else you want to make sure people know or that you'd want to mention?
Yeah, well, as development director, I'm the development director for the state of Wisconsin. And when I make a partnership with anybody, I realize it's always a two-way street. And this is such an interesting, I've learned a ton in just that last half hour listening to you. It's such an interesting space that you guys are occupying. That, whatever that partnership looks like, I hope that Susan G. Komen could help you fulfill some of your priorities and your visions for what you're doing with groups of students, groups of universities. I think we bring something to you, and then hopefully there's some kind of return on your investment back from that we'd be really interested in helping provide and learning more about what your needs are and how you want your space made more public.
Love that. No, appreciate that. That's always a great thing when people are working together and everyone's winning. So very cool. Okay. Well, I saw she dropped her information, and please, if anyone wants to reach out, have a chat, that would be great. Thank you all for your suggestions. And National Carol Voss, always coming in, Carol, just leading the charge at MATC. I love it. Very cool. All right. Well, thank you for that. We will jump to our final section, which is, again, one of my favorites, story time, folks. Now we just get to hear about one of an esports in the state of Wisconsin. We've got a great one on today. Oh, hold on. Zoom quit unexpectedly. Can you all still hear me? Okay, great. It said Zoom quit unexpectedly, so I'm hoping that is not meaning it just ended. But Josh Barnacle, welcome, my friend, from Magic for FGC. You're doing amazing work across a spectrum of games and communities. And I just thought more people need to know the awesome stuff you're doing, my friend. So welcome. Story time is just kind of your chance, man. Tell us who you are, what you're doing, and how you got there. It's just kind of a fun story. So hit us with it.
Well, yeah, thanks for the intro there, Brandon. Hello, everyone. My name is Josh Barnacle, and I run Magic for FGC. Actually, officially now Magic for Gaming LLC as of about 3 weeks ago, but whatever. Semantics at that point. I run fighting game tournaments in the southeastern Wisconsin for a multitude of different areas and for other businesses. and we specialize in fighting game tournaments, specifically with Street Fighter, Tekken, Guilty Gear, and Super Smash Brothers. The kind of the 4 main games that we specialize in. And I've been doing this for about 2.5 years now. We started in August of 2021, and really just kind of started because I wanted tournaments again. And after COVID really kind of shook up everything that we had seen up until that point, and kind of killed off our local tournament scene. And I wanted that environment back. I wanted that atmosphere and that connection of the player to player interaction that was missing from online tournaments and other types of connections that had formed after COVID. And no one in our area had really stepped up to try and fill that void at that time. So I took it upon myself to do that. And I took a crash course in trying to understand how to run brackets and gathering up pieces of equipment as bits and pieces as I could to make up full setups, to make sure I had a baseline of systems and setups to provide for people, and then hunted down for a venue and found some great community partners to work with and host monthlies. And we started in August, and yeah, we've been running ever since, and expanded to not only doing monthly events, but also weekly events at other community partner locations. And the community that's grown out of that is just amazing. I mean, everybody that comes to our events are so passionate and just impressive players. We've worked with other players in particular to try and get them sponsored because they deserve that recognition, and just that connection that I have with all of these people that decided to come out and just play games with me. It's phenomenal. So yeah, that's kind of me in a nutshell. I'm just a guy who really likes video games and wanted to play video games with people again. And now it's essentially turned into a side business, and I have no plans of stopping the growth. I keep buying more and more equipment and looking for bigger places, and just trying to keep doing fun new things to keep everybody engaged and growing that community. So it's been a blast, and I almost can't remember my life without it now.
That's awesome. Well, thanks for those just starting comments. I think, so we started out with Midwest R6, kind of a collegiate Rainbow Six League. We talked to the Wisconsin High School Esports Association, bringing together Wisconsin high schools. Josh, you kind of occupy what I would consider to be sort of that adult on to some degree. I know you've got collegiate participants and you've got a wide range of community, but you sort of do occupy, hey, now I'd like to game. I'd like to pursue my gaming interests. I'd like to compete. I'd like to, be in a community, but I'm out of some of those former things. Maybe speak to just kind of how you've seen those communities develop, or how, people respond really well to that. Because to your point, gaming has evolved over time. You and I are probably familiar with the, playing N64 Mario Kart next to 4 friends and that being community, but now community looks a little different in sort of that adult esport or gamer. Maybe speak to just kind of how you see people there, what that community looks like, and why that's so important.
Yeah, I think that's kind of one of the cool things about our community in particular is it's like you kind of mentioned, it's a nice mix of that the younger crowd, what us old heads call the new blood, and the guys who have been playing games from like the original PS1 somewhat competitively, that are still somewhat active in the scene. Just at the last tournament the last monthly tournament that we ran, we brought back a professional player who had been semi-retired for the past 10 years. And this was his first tournament in 10 years that he came back, and he still has it. He ended up taking that tournament over one of the younger pro sponsored players that takes our Tekken tournament every week. So it was really cool to see some of the people who had started to kind of fall off or migrate away from the competitive gaming space being brought back in, and knowing that our organization had something to do with that is really cool and a point of pride for me. But that's one of the things that we try and focus on for the events that we run. We actually go out and purchase prizes for everyone that participates. and everyone who, when they pay their entry to the tournament, gets entered into that raffle. So even if you don't end up winning in the tournament and taking home some of the prize money, you still have a potential to take some kind of like cool souvenir back with you. And I thought that was important for everyone's engagement, because it's another piece of them trying to come back and like, well, maybe I'll do better in the next tournament, but look at this cool thing that I got. Like, maybe I'll win something cool too, even if I don't perform that well that day. So it's just another level of community engagement that I hadn't seen other people do at tournaments, and I thought was really important, just for everyone there to have a good time. And it kind of fostered that everybody's there to have a good time and help everybody else. And that's taken a life of its own, even outside of our events, which I love to see.
Yeah. No, that's really cool to hear. I mean, so long as they don't involve giving away your Ninja Turtle collection, because that would be a tragedy. Because you got some amazing stuff back there, man. So don't let that go. Your generosity can only go so far. No, that's really cool. I guess, again, I've enjoyed the chance to just kind of let people into some of the idiosyncrasies of these spaces. Like, you spoke to a pro ranked player who's competing. You spoke to someone who hadn't played in a while. Maybe just like describe the community, because there are a lot of different level varying competitors or talents and abilities, and sometimes that can be prohibitive, sometimes that can be a restrictor. Like, what would you say to someone who's not familiar with like a TO'd public event that people wouldn't know? Like, why do people enter, where do they enter, what is a prohibitor, just any of those small things that you might have expertise on, that, hey, let's just get these people some more knowledge on.
No, absolutely. There is definitely a potential to have like, oh, this is the top ranked Smash player in the state. Why would I go? I'm not going to be able to beat them. And we have a few of those in almost every game that we run. Like, we have a player that topped 8 at Evo, which is the largest fighting game tournament in the world, who lives in Wauwatosa. Like, so he comes to our events pretty frequently. And same goes for Tekken, where we had someone who had topped 8 in multiple major events. And that can initially be a little bit prohibitive, or maybe some people a little leery about entering. But then we also have those other community event type ideas that we do with like the raffle prizes and trying to engage people in other ways. But also we've fostered this community of helping and training and being a part of that. And a lot of those top players are also incredibly warm and inviting and wanting to help people understand and sharing what they know about the game to make everyone better. And it's another main focus that I've tried to put into the events that I run, is that everybody's welcome regardless of skill level. And there's also different things you can run to the weeklies that we do. A big hit is our free side bracket that we run. So we'll start off with a main bracket that's paid entry, and then about halfway through that bracket run, we'll start a free side event where everyone who's already out of the tournament at that time still has something to stay and engage and still be a participant in. This week in particular, we're actually running what we call a redemption bracket. So any player that went either 0-2 in the tournament or 1-2, so got eliminated a little bit earlier, it's only eligible for them, and I'm putting in a $50 prize pool for that. So it's those players that are starting to learn or aren't quite at that high end skill level yet that make it through the entire main bracket, have something that they can stay and compete and still participate. And I think the longer you can keep players engaged at your events, the more likely they are to continue to come back. Because when I started all of this, I wanted that environment and that interaction and that atmosphere, and that's what sells it, is having people stay in there long enough and they go like, man, this is actually really cool, and they don't want to leave after that point. They like want to keep coming back and being a part of that, because it's just fun, and being around people that like the same thing you do and are just as passionate about it, like, you want to hang out with those people. So
Yeah, no, that's really good. And I think an important differentiator to mention for folks is like, people pay. So they pay to come and compete in Magic's tournaments. And I think that's one of the most exciting things, because price sensitivity is I would describe it as a major issue in esports all the way up the ladder. It's people's willingness to pay for the experience that they're receiving. And so again, when you hear of a Mike putting his team and the passion that they do it through, it's bootstrapped. When you hear about, Jackson, a lot of this is because people aren't willing to pay $150 for something to get that experience. And so I think, Josh charges a fee when someone comes and competes each week. So to his point, if you know that someone's going to win every week because they're top 8 ranked in the world in a title, that can be divisive. It can bring people away from wanting to compete. Like, why would I give my $10 and then just walk away? So I think I appreciate you mentioning it. And it's really important that those auxiliary experiences and some of those things are there to keep people like, this is an experience. I may have the opportunity to compete and win. That's attractive, but more so, I've got friends, I've got people. And like in a title like Wisconsin Smash, for those that don't know, we've got a huge Wisconsin Smash community, Smash Brothers community. And it's largely, I'm going to say in Brandon's terms, untethered. It's just kind of out there in the ether. And so for someone like Josh to be helping cultivate it, bring it to a central location, see numbers grow, and be able to showcase that they're willing to pay for that experience is so, I think, important for its future sustainability, particularly because it's not, again, run at a university. It's not being run at a local level. Like from a high school perspective, these are adults. And so I'm so enamored and appreciative of what you do because it's really important. Any other closing thoughts you'd want people to know about the fighting game community or just what Magic's doing?
I mean, we're kind of just, we run our monthlies, we run our weeklies, and we're going to keep those things going. We do have some other fun things brewing with some regional competitions of state versus state kind of invitationals that are coming up, that those are going to be really fun. But nothing I can officially announce yet because we're still working out on particulars there. But I will make sure to drop my website in the chat. So if anyone has any questions or wants to reach out and learn more about it, that has all my social links on there. We're very active on Twitter because that's where the fighting game community lives. So I'm always on there figuring things out and getting the latest gossip. So yeah, thank you again so much for the time. And this has been really fun. I appreciate it.
Cool. Well, thanks for that. Yeah, drop your contact info. Josh will be at the summit next week. He's running a Modern Warfare 2 tournament, actually. And I saw Josh Sova on from the USO. So we're going to be having a little USO friendly competition of Modern Warfare 2 up on the big screen. It's going to be a ton of fun. So again, just thank you to Josh. Thank you to the Magic F4GC or Magic Gaming, whatever it's now become. Great work for everything you're doing. And really, it's a fun story. So much appreciated. All right, friends, we are at sort of the conclusion. I'm going to try to share my screen again. Hopefully Zoom doesn't crash. Fingers crossed. But basically just wanted to say thank you all for being here. Please join the Discord if it's a place you want to. You know what? I'm not going to share my screen anymore because it keeps blowing everything up. So we're done with that. All I wanted to tell you was thank you. We have a Discord. We have apparel. We have an amazing event coming up on Monday, which many of you will be at. And thank you to everyone for being here today. It's always great to see everyone. Have a great